there is a great deal of resistance. And talking to these countries, we realized that there was not, the resistance was placed on the wrong track. There was concern that they would lose access to either resources, when either resources are not LDC specific, and other examples like that. So because of that, we decided to make an inventory of existing LDC measures, and we talk to bilateral donors, multilateral donors, LDCs themselves, and trading partners. And I'm very happy to see in the room here some of our colleagues who helped us in conducting this project. And the idea is to put all the information available on special support measures in a website portal, so that the LDCs can access and exchange information, and there are also learning modules. So the idea of the portal is to consolidate the information on availability, utilization, and obstacles to the support measures, to increase awareness of those measures and conditions by LDCs, and also to provide explanation on how to access those measures, assist in identifying gaps in access and delivery, and also support institutional capacity building to apply and access the measures. The idea is that with the portal is being like an input, a contribution to enhance use of the measures, to increase their effectiveness, and also to lead to some to improve support as they are changed. I want just to complete by saying that yes, tomorrow we have the launch of the LDC portal in the conference center at 1:15, and I would like to invite you all to be there. I see Patrick Lemon here, and our event is a joint event with Ferdi, and Patrick will be launching his book, Out of the Trap, together with the launch of the portal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for that. You must have noticed that Anna, sitting on that particular position as the Chief of the Secretariat of the Committee for Development Policy, has concentrated essentially on the structural attributes of the LDCs and its evolving implication for the Istanbul Program of Action. And this is, you have heard whatever she has said. I just wanted to point out one of the issues which UNDC has been highlighting, that in order to implement so many objectives of a program of action, we have so little toolbox, such a meager toolbox. And she alerted us that there is ODA of various forms, and then there is trade. And even the trade is only related to the manufactured goods, not the services. And then there are other forms, and the most exciting part of the other forms is the fund for travel. And obviously. And so other than that, we don't have enough instruments in that toolbox. Now, one of the important aspects of the Istanbul Program of Action would be broadening this toolbox. And one of the ways of broadening two ways of broadening is one, to get new instruments and to get new actors in the development policy community international. So South-South happens to be broadening of the toolbox in some way, and also bringing in other instruments like Sovereign Wealth Fund, new financial technology in that case, and transfer of technology in a more effective way. So these are aspects which we can all talk about. The other point I wanted to highlight, underscore from this particular presentation is that, and Anna said nobody wants to get out of it. And for the first time, Istanbul Program of Action, in the first draft, if you see initial drafts, the first objective was to halve the number of LDCs by 10 years. Well, you got 3 countries out in 30 years, and you got 25 out in 10 years. But that's quite an ambitious one. The latest draft puts it 1/3. So that is more, I think, a reasonable moderation in that way. So, but what is important is that one of the reasons why LDCs do not want to graduate is their perceived apprehension they're going to lose all the support measures. So one will have to talk about the post-graduation support measures for smooth and sustainable graduation in that way. So these are some of the two issues I just wanted to pick up from Anna's presentation. Now I would like to invite no less than a person who has led the LDC knowledge, a discovery, the knowledge pursuit in UNCTAD, Dr. Charles Gore. He is the Mr. LDC report of UNCTAD. And you all know his very, very fundamental contribution in strengthening the knowledge base about LDCs. And he had led the structuralist argument sitting in Geneva vis-a-vis many others in this case. And so we are very, very happy and proud to have Charles with us today. Charles, go.
Thank you very much, Deb. Thank you very much, Deb. And I'd also like to thank the organisers for the invitation to be here. I'm more optimistic, actually, and I think this programme of action will be implemented through new partnerships, and I think this meeting is based on a new partnership, which is, I think, very creative, between Bangladesh, Geneva, Turkey, and Paris. And I think in itself, this is an indication of progress and the new kinds of partnership through which the programme of action will be implemented. And also the portal, which Anna just mentioned. This is great news, I think, and will be very helpful. So it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm afraid I couldn't come to Bangladesh, despite the invitation. But I think this kind of new network it will be very fruitful. In my presentation, I would like briefly to talk about the challenge facing LDCs over the next 10 years. And then secondly, to focus on governance deficits. And thirdly, briefly, to speak about the example of MDGs for monitoring and what we might learn from that. Now, my main contribution is going to be to talk about governance deficits at the national and global level, as I see these as the key blockage to implementation of the programme of action. But let me start by talking about the challenge facing LDCs. I think the critical challenge is an employment challenge. The ILO estimates that the labour force of LDCs is going to increase by 10.2 million people per year from 2005 to 2015. Growth is going to depend on putting these people to work with greater amounts of capital, greater amounts of knowledge. Poverty reduction is going to depend on the creation of productive livelihoods for these people. If jobs and livelihoods are not created for these people, then poverty will increase as it has been increasing. And the alternative for that is pressures for international out-migration will increase as they have been increasing. And LDCs will become countries which are integrated into the global economy through remittances and out-migration rather than production. The programme of action has placed graduation at the centre of its concerns. And I think that is important technically, as Anna has said, but I think it's also important philosophically. Because what graduation means is graduation from dependence on the international community for special support. And so when the LDCs have pushed so hard to put graduation at the centre of the programme of action, essentially what they're saying is that we want support now for our efforts to develop and graduate so we don't need support in the future. This is a very important message. They are also asking for a mechanism for smooth transition and to make sure that the graduation takes place right. But I think the philosophical basis is that we want support to our efforts to develop and graduate now so that we don't need special support in the future. This is very, very important. And they have also focused on economic development as the basis of that, and the development of productive capacities and transformation. And I make these remarks at the beginning because I think this session is about monitoring. So what should we be monitoring? I think we should be monitoring these things: the employment, the poverty, the production, and these are the basis for the vision which underlies Istanbul. Now, what are the key blockages on implementation? Now, as I say, I think there are governance deficits at both national and international, global levels. Now, at the national level, I think it's necessarily difficult for LDCs to provide the kinds of services which a modern society in this global economy should provide, and also to create a better future for their people. I say necessarily it's difficult because there's an economic basis for this. And I'll just give you some numbers. If you take the GDP of LDCs, average GDP per capita, and translate it into GDP per capita per day, you get $1.59 GDP per capita per person per day. If you look at the household consumption per capita per person per day, it comes at $1.14. And if you take the difference between those, you've got 45 cents per person per day, which is the domestic resources which are available for public investment, private investment, and running your government, running the police force, running your judiciary, paying your bureaucrats. This is 45 cents per person per day. Now, actually, when you look at the national accounts figures and look at final government expenditure, which is the running of the government, they're paying, these are figures for 2009, it's 20 cents per person per day. Okay? Now, developed countries are spending $20 per person per day. Okay, so what kind of good governance can you buy for 20 cents per person per day? Now, you can increase your share of your GDP going on governance, but even if you increase it, you can only, the reality of having a low GDP is you're just not going to have so much resources. Now, what this means, for example, and I'll just give, I was in Nepal 3 weeks ago. Somebody had just returned from Geneva to Nepal as an undersecretary. He was earning $300 per month. He'd come back from Geneva to Nepal as an undersecretary level, where he was being paid $300 a month. He is there, sitting there,